and welcome to my channel. Today I have for you a video which is about something negative, which I don't usually do on my channel, but it's about products that I haven't particularly liked. I feel like I always do favorites on my channel and I talk about the products I'm loving every month, but today I thought I'd talk to you about products that have literally been disappointing, that I've sort of felt that I've wasted my money on. So there's quite a few things to get through, so without further ado, let's get straight into it. But before we start, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. I upload twice a week on Wednesdays and Sundays, so please don't forget to hit that subscribe button to see more videos from me, and also hit the little bell right next to it so that you get a notification every time I upload. Okay, so I'm going in no particular order with these products. I'm just kind of going to go as they are in this little box that I have here. And the first one I have is the OSKIA Renaissance, the OSKIA Renaissance mask. There was so much hype about this product. I had so many bloggers talk about it, say it was amazing, that it did miracles to the skin, but I have to say on my skin it hasn't worked at all. It's actually a mask. I'll show you what it looks like. Oh, that's a bit stuck in there. Hold on, I'll get there. There we go. Okay, so the smell is really, really nice. I got this in Space NK, which is where they stock OSKIA, and it's actually quite a high-end premium brand, so I can't remember how much this was, but it was pretty pricey for a face mask. And it's like this, it's sort of a jelly sort of formula, and once you apply it on the skin, I don't know if the camera is picking that up, but it basically just goes white and it turns into like a cream. Don't know if you can see it there, yeah. But it turns into like a cream, like a thick cream. And basically what you do with this is you apply it all over your face and you leave it on for about 15 minutes and then you just wash it off just like a normal mask. And it is meant to resurface your kind of skin and take off any impurities, and it's supposed to brighten your complexion and basically just kind of take off the dead layer of skin that you have on top and kind of make the other layer resurface. And yeah, people said it was absolutely amazing. It really made a difference. It was a great mask to put on like before an event to give your face some glow and luminosity. But for me, actually, every time I've used it, it's broken me out. When I'm wearing it, it's super uncomfortable because it really, really stings. It really irritates this area around my face, and I don't know if it's because it's got something that I'm allergic to, or I don't know. I haven't really kind of gone into like rashes or anything, but it's broken me out. I've gotten spots after wearing it, and yeah, it just doesn't really do anything for me. I don't feel my skin looks nicer or smoother or brighter or anything really. And on the contrary, it actually breaks me out every single time. Like even if I don't have any spots after I've used it, after a couple of days, I'll usually break out. So honestly, for me, this is a huge disappointment, and I don't know if it's my skin type or that the product isn't good, but for me, it definitely hasn't worked. And it's a pretty pricey product, so I would say try and get a tester or a sample before you actually purchase the whole thing if you are looking to getting this one. Okay, so next up is this OPI nail polish, and it is in the color, I promise it has a color. Oh yeah, it's my very first KNOCKWURST. So it is a beautiful mauvey, pinky, nudie color, right up my street. It's sort of quite nudie and quite pale, but at the same time it has like a mauvey tint to it. So I thought it was a really nice color to get for like the winter months, and I really was very excited to try this on. But I have to say the formulation of OPI nail polishes is absolutely horrific. I have tried about 3 or 4, and I have to say every single time they just chip within 2 days. They just don't last at all. I much, much, much prefer Essie, and I really don't know what got over me. I thought I would give this one a go because, I don't know, I really love the color, and I thought maybe, you know, it's not all the nail polishes and it won't all be the same, but it was just dreadful. I put it on and I think a day later my nails were already kind of all chipped from the top, and it just didn't last at all, and I was really, really unhappy with the formulation. It applies really nicely, and the brush is really nice. I'll show you. It's not too thick, it's not too thin. It goes on really, really nicely, but unfortunately it just doesn't last. So a big disappointment because I really loved the colour. Next up is this product, which I actually really loved when I first got it, and it's the Big Sexy Hair Powder Play. So it's meant to be a powder that gives you kind of lift and volume at the roots, and instead of using hairspray, you can use a bit of this on the roots, and it's just supposed to kind of give you that volume and lift so that you don't have to backcomb. And the first time I tried it, it worked really well, but after that, my hair had like loads of like powdery white residue that you could see. I couldn't brush it off. It didn't actually give that much lift for a long time, so it kind of gave the lift at the beginning, and then an hour later my hair was kind of all flat, and yeah, and it just made my hair look kind of dirty and sticky, and you couldn't kind of brush it off at the end of the day, because I usually use hairspray, and usually at the end of the day I use the Net one, and you can just brush it off and your hair feels normal. But with this, it sort of felt sticky, and yeah, I just really didn't like it. And to be honest, it gave lift, but it didn't last that long, so I really wouldn't recommend this one. Next, I know is going to be quite a controversial product. It is the Armani Luminous Silk Foundation. I know that so many people love this foundation, and I've heard so many bloggers, so many YouTubers talk about it, and everybody said it was amazing, and I decided to purchase it. I always usually test my foundations, and I get a tester before I actually buy the whole thing, but I decided to take the plunge because everybody said it was so amazing that I was like, you know what, let's just buy it, because I didn't have a tester, and I was like, I'll just take the whole thing. And oh my god, such a disappointment. The formula is nice, it's not too thick, it's not too thin, it's sort of medium coverage, sinks in nicely into the skin, but it clings onto all my dry patches, and it made me look grey. I don't know if it's the shade, I don't know if maybe I just got the wrong shade. I have the shade 6.5. And I think it's a little bit dark for me, but aside from the fact that it's dark, it just has like a really grey undertone. It has a really grey undertone, and I don't know, it just made me look really sallow and really grey, and in pictures I just looked muddy and dirty, and I don't know, it just really is very unflattering on my skin, and it really clings onto the dry patches. It doesn't really conceal my under eye, it just makes them look darker than what they already are, which means I need tons of concealer on top. So I don't know, it just made me look really kind of dark, and not dark, but like dark in a bad way, like muddy, not dark as in like nice and bronze. So I really didn't like this one. The formulation was okay, but it was just the shade for me. It just really didn't work, and it was super unflattering on my skin. Another foundation I wanted to mention, which I don't have the whole thing, but I have a little tester, which I did a review of, and I will link that video here. It was the DIOR Forever Foundation. When they reformulated this foundation, so many people were raving about it that I thought I'd give it a go. But to be honest, for me, it was just really drying. I felt that it was flaking around my nose. My skin looked really sort of very matte. If you like very matte foundations, you might really love this one. But for me, it just looked really flat, like it had no dimension. My face looked like it was literally cardboard. It was kind of creasing, and it just looked too matte on me. And I don't know, maybe if you've got super oily skin, then it might work, but I've got combination skin, and to be fair, for me, it was just too matte, and it made my skin look flat, so I really didn't like the formulation of this one. Another product I wanted to mention, which I don't actually have with me because I threw it away, is the gel liner by Bobbi Brown. I used that gel liner in like black, which is what I use, and I used it for the longest time ever, and although the formulation was great, it went beautifully on your eyes, it was really black, it was really intense, but unfortunately every time I bought one, within like 3 weeks it was dry and I had to throw it away. And to be honest, it's not a cheap product, so I thought it was just not worth the money, because every time I used it, it was just for a waste, because in 3 weeks it was literally dry and crusty and you couldn't apply it onto your eyes. So that was a bit disappointing. I have since been using the Estee Lauder gel liner, and oh my god, it is not as black as the Bobbi Brown one, but to be fair, I just top it up with a bit of liquid liner and it looks perfect, and that one doesn't dry out at all. I've had mine for like over 6 months and it's still going strong. As long as you close it after you've used it, it just goes on beautifully and it doesn't dry out at all. So I would much rather recommend that one. Staying on the topic of eyes, one product that I wanted to mention, which I thought I would never mention in a video about disappointing products, is the Max Factor Voluptuous False Lash Effect. I've loved the False Lash Effect mascara for like the longest time in the world, and if you follow my blog and you follow my YouTube channel, you will probably know that. But unfortunately, when I bought this formula, I was just really disappointed by the fact that it didn't give my lashes any volume. It has the same sort of brush as the normal false lash effect mascara, but this one is like in a spiral shape and it's a little bit harder, the plastic bristles. And honestly, it just didn't cut my lashes well. It didn't add volume. It separated them quite nicely, but to be honest, there was not that kind of oomph factor. And ever since I tried this one, I switched over to the Maybelline false lash, no, it's not false lash effect, it's push-up drama. And it's much, much better than this one. I don't know. I love the false lash effect, the traditional one, but this one just really didn't do it for me. Another mascara I was pretty disappointed with was the Legendary Lashes by Charlotte Tilbury, and I normally really love Charlotte Tilbury products, so I was gutted that I was disappointed with this one. I think it's the first Charlotte Tilbury product that I ever tried that I didn't like. And I actually don't have the full size one. I was gifted a small one when I got, I think it was the Instant Look in a palette, and the packaging is obviously beautiful, like with all Charlotte Tilbury products, but to be honest, this just didn't do it for me. It didn't have enough volume, it didn't have enough lift, it didn't hold the curl, and I don't know, it was just kind of very plain. It wasn't a bad mascara. It sort of separated the lashes and it added a little bit of length, but it didn't really add that kind of thick volume and it didn't really hold the curl. It was kind of quite a wet formula, and I didn't like the brush. It's a traditional sort of bristle brush, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't really work for me, so I really didn't like this one, and I was going to purchase the full size, but I'm glad I didn't. Another Charlotte Tilbury product I was a little disappointed with was this powder, I think it's called the Flawless Finish Airbrush Powder. And although I have hit pan on it because I mean, it's not terrible, so I was like, I don't want to waste it because it's a pretty pricey product, but I have to say, before this, I used the Chanel pressed powder, and oh my god, there is nothing like it. That powder is amazing. You put it over your skin like during the day if you've kind of, your makeup has faded a little bit or you're feeling a little oily, and it just kind of brushes over any imperfections, corrects the coverage, and it makes your skin look flawless again. This powder works really nicely when I first apply it on my makeup. It just really gives a very flawless finish and it just looks very natural. It's super finely milled, so it works really well. But when I reapply it, maybe later on in the day if I'm a little shiny, I feel like it makes my foundation separate and it just makes it go really patchy, especially when the areas where I've applied concealer to contour or where I've applied concealer underneath my eyes. It just makes it go really patchy and grainy, and you can start seeing my pores, and it just doesn't look very nice. So it works very well as a first application, but I don't know, when it mixes with the oil in your skin, it just doesn't work that well. So a bit of a disappointment for me. Another product that was a little disappointing was this Revlon single eyeshadow. It was quite a cheapy one, and I needed a kind of cream eyeshadow to use on my brow bone, and I thought I'd get this one. It had a little bit of a sheen to it, but it wasn't glittery, so I really liked it. But unfortunately, the color payoff is terrible. There's just no pigmentation. They blend in really badly. They're very powdery, and yeah, it was just a huge disappointment. And another disappointment was actually a MAC shadow, and this was the first MAC shadow and the last one I ever bought because I just really didn't like the formulation. I have it in, it's like a grey colour. The shade is actually rubbed off the back because it's that old. And again, I've used it because it's not terrible, but to be honest, from a MAC shadow, I was expecting a lot more. It just wasn't buttery enough. It didn't blend very well. It was a little powdery. The pigmentation was good, but not amazing. And I have to say, I much prefer the Charlotte Tilbury eyeshadows. This one really wasn't that great. Staying on the topic of eyeshadows, I had to mention this one. And again, I know this is going to be quite controversial. This is the Naked 2 palette. And although I love the pigmentation of these eyeshadows and I love their consistency, they blend in absolutely beautifully. The only thing that disappointed me, and I thought I would include it because I know that a lot of people love these eyeshadows and nobody actually mentions this, but for me they have a lot of fallout. They have great shades, they are super nice to blend, but they just fall out so much that they just destroy the rest of your makeup. And it's really hard to get rid of it because there's a lot of pigmentation, so it's really hard. And also, because they have so much pigmentation, you have to be super careful because if you apply a tiny little bit more, your eyes will just look crazy, and especially if it's a dark shadow, it'll just look like someone's punched you in the face. So I much prefer the Charlotte Tilbury consistency. They're pigmented, but they're not that pigmented. They blend in equally well, and they don't have that much fallout. Moving on to skincare again, another product I was disappointed with was this Estee Lauder Clear Difference Serum. I had previously used one from the same range, which was like a brightening serum, which they discontinued, and I absolutely loved that serum. It was like my holy grail product. It was a great product to apply underneath makeup because it just gave a lot of luminosity and brightness to your skin, but it didn't make it oily, and it had sort of a sheen to it, so it just made your skin look really beautiful. They discontinued that product, and the lady at the store recommended that I take this one, which was the replacement they'd sort of come up with. But this one was not bright and luminous and sheeny with like a golden glow to it like the other one. This one was just a normal liquidy sort of formula, like a normal serum. It blends in really easily because it's almost like water. But unfortunately, the smell is quite medicinal, so it was quite unpleasant. But that was not the main reason. The thing is, it was really, really drying on the skin. And I didn't see it make that much difference to my pores. It was just really drying. So if you've got super oily skin, especially on your T-zone, it might work for you because it is a really drying product. But for me, it was just too drying and it made my skin almost go flaky. So I was really gutted that they discontinued the other one because this really wasn't a replacement for it. And finally, the last product I wanted to talk about is this Brazilian CUPUACU. I'm not sure how to say it. Scrub and oil by The Body Shop. I absolutely love their Himalayan, no, is it Himalayan? No, Mediterranean sea salt scrub that they have. It's absolutely amazing. It's also from the same range, Oils of the World, no, Spa of the World. And honestly, it's the most amazing scrub. It leaves your skin looking super, super smooth, and it also leaves it feeling quite nourished. This one is actually an oil, but the scrub that it has inside, it's very, very thin. The molecules are very, very small, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel like it's scrubbing a lot. It feels quite grainy, but the grains are really tiny, so it doesn't feel like it's scrubbing as much as the other one. And also, because it's an oil instead of a sort of creamy formula, it's really, really messy. Everything in the bathroom just gets full of oil. I felt like the oil finished really quickly, and then I was just left with sort of salt or whatever that is. I think it's salt. No, fine crystals. So I was just left with the crystals and there was no oil, so it was really difficult to kind of scrub it into my body. So yeah, I really didn't like this one. I wasn't a huge fan, which was quite disappointing because I really loved the other one. Okay, well that's it guys, that's everything from me. I hope you enjoyed this video. I thought it was important to share with you the stuff that I don't like as well, so that you don't buy the same products that I didn't like. Well, you might like them, but anyway, I thought I'd let you know my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!